Hi everyone, welcome back to the French Connections HCB YouTube channel. Today's Real French Connection is Drayton, and he's going to tell us all about his experience of moving to France and of his local area. Hope you enjoy. Hi Drayton, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
It's very well, thank you. Very well. Your background's rather wonderful. Is it going to give us a hint of what we're going to be talking about?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This is basically where I spend a lot of my time.
Good to know. You can tell us all about it in a minute.
Yeah.
Super. Thank you again for joining us to talk about your experience of France, of moving to France, and with French Connections HCB a little bit as well. Um, let's go back to the beginning, I guess,
Okay.
and ask you what drew you to France in the first place. So not quite specifically where you are, but just France as a country.
Well, a couple of interests of mine were wine and French wines, and Côte d'Aron wines are a favorite style of mine, but also a cycling enthusiast and was doing a lot of long distance cycling. So I decided to combine those two interests, and I did a long distance cycling trip through Provence.
Mm.
And it was my first real vacation in France. And I got off the train in Avignon, was met by my guides, hopped on a bike, and it was a week of just unbelievable experiences. I loved it, but it was the first full day when we rode our bikes to Bedouin at the foot of Mont Ventoux, and it was market day. And I remember just being amazed at how wonderful it was, how real it was, and how people really do their shopping, their food shopping there. It's not just a one-off thing or specialty items. And the whole city was just one great big outdoor market. And I thought, I could easily own a place here and use this as my vacation home and just come here several times a year to do that.
And when was that?
So
How
I
long
had
ago
it
was
in my,
this?
pardon me?
How long ago was that?
That was 2014.
Okay.
And then, so every year I was biking in France, and we had some political developments in the US in 2016, sort of like you did in the UK.
Mhm.
And oh, I need to speed up the home buying process because I was going to wait till I was retired
Okay.
and use that as a vacation home.
Mhm, mhm.
So in 2018, I decided to not do the cycling trip, but instead to look for a home. I love Provence, I love the Vaucluse, but I decided to start my process in the Gard department, which is just across the river in the Rhone, still Provençal,
Yeah,
same weather, same wines.
beautiful,
Um,
beautiful part of
it
the country.
is, yes. And that was just really a fun trip. One of the things that I did when we came back, and I thought, okay, it's exactly 4 years after my first trip here and that experience at Bedouin. So we went back to Bedouin so I could experience the market just to see if, that feeling was still there. And it was.
Right.
And looking for homes and sort of by luck, I think,
Mm,
found the right home, a perfect home, and
amazing.
boom, it was done. Then got stuck in the US for 2 years because of COVID
Oh,
lockdowns.
yeah.
And so during COVID, we just decided, let's just make the move. We'll telecommute, telework,
Mm.
if possible. If not, ditch everything and move over permanently so that we don't get stuck in the US and not be able to visit our home
Stall.
at
Yeah,
all. So
absolutely.
we went for it and jumped in. So and really enjoying it. It's a great life and we're having a blast.
And whereabouts did you decide to move to exactly? Where have you found home?
We are in a village called Saint-Laurent-la-Venette.
Mm.
It's 8 miles north of Uzès,
Mhm.
and it has 700 people in it. One of the things we didn't realize when we were looking for a home was just how valuable it was to have some forms of commerce the boulangerie, the épicerie, the post office, the cafe. Those three things have made such a difference in our lives here.
Mm.
And we didn't know really to look for that. It was by luck that the home was in a village that has that. And so in the mornings, you can walk down to the boulangerie for your croissants and your baguettes. And the épicerie has a little charcuterie counter with meats and prepared foods and all your staples, and a cafe that's, open from 9 in the morning till midnight.
Absolutely.
And it's funny, they open in the morning, they don't serve lunch until noon, but before then, people are drinking wine in the morning, and which is typical.
Why not? It's a Thursday.
Yeah. And it's owned by the village vineyard too, so it's
Oh,
just
so
a,
they have
a real,
really good produce.
yes, yes.
And what was it that made you realize? So you obviously got through your journey of coming over from the US, and you'd been around before, and you'd done so much of it yourself, obviously. When was the point that you realized you needed a little bit of help? What happened with that?
That's an interesting question because to us, the things that we knew we were going to have to do, our visa work, our driver's licenses, and who knows what else, those were going to be critically important items. And so, in my own mind, I placed that with along the category of my wealth management team, which manages my investments, and I pay them to do that. A real estate professional that you use when you buy a home. You could do it on your own, but you use a real estate professional to buy and sell your home. Your tax person you pay because you want to have somebody there
Right.
making sure you're doing it right and staying out of trouble. So really, we knew we wanted help from that, not because we needed help. We
Mm.
just wanted that professionalism walking side by side with us and being available to us so that we could get the process done right and done quickly. Um, and we had some amazing success with HCB as well. 90 days after you once you're living here for 90 consecutive days with the intent to live here full time, you can apply for your driver's license and your carte vitale, your health insurance card.
Yeah.
And the health insurance one is very important.
Mm.
And we got that so quickly. From the time we applied to the time we got our attestation saying you're on the healthcare system, just
Yeah,
present this
you're
paper
in.
was was 45 days, and then the card came 2 weeks later. And
Gosh.
that meant we were able to cancel the health insurance we had bought to cover the first year that you need for your visa. And we got back 60% of the money we paid
That's brilliant.
from our health insurance plan. So HCB's help in getting that really saved us a lot of money on that end. And I
Mhm.
know people who've done it on their own, and people aren't always successful on the
Yes.
first try.
Yeah.
And so it's time is money, as they say.
Time is
And the
money.
driver's license too. Driver's licenses take longer, but we did get that.
You got
And
there in
that,
the end.
oh
Yeah.
yes,
With
we got that.
our little magicians back at the office doing what they do best, problem solving like maestros.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, because there are a lot of bizarre questions you get asked from France, from the French administration about what they want. One thing they wanted was a certificate, including the date of when we first passed a driving test in the US. And
Really?
it's like, that doesn't exist.
Do you have
You
that?
don't,
I don't.
pass the test, you get a license. And fortunately, we had gotten motorcycle licenses so we could drive a Vespa in the
Ah,
US. So we took an exam for that.
mhm.
And then they reissued our license and that date was on the license. So HCB explained all of that. And it worked out fine
That's
until
good
we
to
got our
know.
driver's.
That's really, really good to know. And how did you find working with the team at French Connections HCB?
Very nice, very nice. We've communicated via email, by telephone call, by Zoom, and it's all very quickly. They're very fast response. typically, we hear back in 24 to 48 hours, and you'll get a message saying, here's my schedule. This is when I get back to you.
Brilliant.
If it were something urgent, they can get back to you and
Sure,
prioritize.
sure, sure. Oh,
Yeah.
that's good to know. That's really good to know. We will certainly share that with the team. They love to hear back. They love to
And
hear back all this good stuff.
Juliet, whom we work with, is really great. Yeah.
Brilliant. Really good. Really good. Okay, so let's go back to kind of your insider knowledge. I'm going to pick your brains a little bit about where you live.
Okay.
So what's your actual favorite thing about living in Uzès?
Um,
Difficult. So many.
what there are so many. I can tell you why I picked this area over going to the Luberon, which
Yeah,
is
perfect.
beautiful,
Yeah.
stunning. And I just noticed when biking through the Luberon, it was heavily populated by people from the UK.
Okay.
And I'm like, if I'm going to make this move to France, I want to be where there are a lot more French people. I
Sure.
want to try to dive into
Sure.
the community, integrated.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to be in a expat enclave.
Sure.
Um, and also to the pricing, you're getting everything is the same except the pricing for the homes is
Mm.
considerably less just across the Rhone River. And another thing too, for this area that was really important, it was not so much Uzès, but I set a criteria for myself in looking for a home that I wanted to be within 25 miles of a TGV station so that I could have easy access to Paris,
Mhm.
to other places in Europe. The high-speed trains are a wonder.
Mm.
And we can go to Paris for as little as 19 euros, and it's 430 miles away,
That's
and it
great.
takes 2 hours and 40 minutes.
That's
So
crazy, which
it's
is a really
fabulous.
good point actually, because there's something to be said for knowing what area you want to go to, and obviously you've got to live there, and obviously you're going to be there for the majority of your time. But France and Europe are such amazing countries. It's such an incredible region, and it's suddenly very accessible, isn't it? So you don't.
It is.
Yes, you're going to live in one particular place. That's a given. But actually, it just opens up so much more because it is so well connected.
You can even do a day trip to Paris, go have lunch in Paris, see a museum, and then come back, in time for dinner here.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
amazing. We also use the TGV when flying from the United States or other places and flying to Charles de Gaulle.
Mhm.
It's actually just easier and faster to get on the train, which is right below Terminal 2 at
Mhm.
Charles de Gaulle Airport.
Mhm.
And it's 2 hours and 50 minutes, sometimes with just one stop. And we arrive in Avignon by lunchtime, have lunch, get off the train, go in and have lunch, outside the Papal Palace in
Yeah.
Avignon. But also two things. My partner, my sister, and I went to the Platinum Jubilee for the Queen,
Excellent.
and the train from Avignon, just drive to the station. And it took 5 hours and 50 minutes. And it was as fast, and I think a little faster than driving to either Montpellier or Marseille and flying. And it was so relaxing to do
Yeah.
that.
And
So we
train
appreciate
travel is a joy, isn't it? We sort of forget about it because we're sort well, the fastest way to get anywhere is to fly, but actually, there's a real joy in getting on a train.
Oh, it is. And the anxiety levels and stress levels just decrease. You can sit back depending on the type of train you're on. If it's an NW train, you're going to have a bar car and you can get food, wine, and beer and
Plan
just kick
ahead.
back.
Plan ahead. No
Yeah,
trolley coming down the aisle.
exactly. Exactly.
Love that. Love that. So when did you, because obviously, you've been there for a little, well, you've been over here for a little while now.
Mhm.
Is there a specific moment when you truly felt at home in France?
Wow.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Tricky
I
one.
think one moment that was really fun was we go to our pizzeria a lot. You're
Mhm.
buying little staple supplies, food, charcuterie meats, etc. And the father and his daughter who run the place are wonderful.
Mm.
And they had a little sign up for a village charcuterie grillade that was coming up. And I asked, what is that? What is it? And they're like, oh, this is a really big event and you really need to be there because people want to meet you. We want to get to know you and want you to meet other people. And that was nice knowing you're fitting in with the
Yeah,
village that
yeah,
way. And
yeah.
another
Really
thing that the
welcomed.
village
Yeah.
does every January is they have a welcome reception for all the people who've moved to the village in the past calendar year.
Oh, that's
And we went, and that was really exciting because it was a warm welcome. You get to meet the mayor and all these other, people working with the town, but they had every village committee represented there, telling you exactly what they do, what events they have coming up. And there's an expectation in France that you get involved, you help out in the community, and they let you know how to do that.
mm,
So we've really become, we know that we're liked in the village. People are nice to us. Very little English spoken in the village. So I'm picking up Provençal
yeah,
because they
that's it. It's not just
very,
French, is it? It's Provençal.
my gosh, I had a cable guy over installing um, cable TV and the internet. It was just almost like pure Provençal. And I was having difficulty understanding him. I was having him write things down in French.
Yeah.
And then the housekeeper came over. She only speaks French unexpectedly. And I'm like, help. And
Mm.
so he spoke to her with his heavy Provençal accent. And then she spoke to me in French, more standard French.
Yeah, yeah,
And it was
standard
just
French.
funny. So we had this little translation thing going on. Um, but yeah, we're really adjusting to village life. It's a great way to dive into the language and learning all these little the way people speak.
But you've had
And
a
I have to
really
catch myself
lovely,
when I go to Paris.
yes, yeah, of course, yeah, yeah. So you've had a really lovely integration into your community. You can really feel that from your experience. You found it a real
Yeah.
joy to do. Like I said, there's always going to be challenges, but you found it a good process.
And that's a good point that there are always going to be challenges. To me, you're not going to, taking little footsteps isn't going to get you there. You've got to take some jumps, and you're constantly doing these jumps.
Mhm.
It's not a leap, it's just a jump. And you feel kind of like a little anxiety there for a moment, and
Mhm.
you just do it, and then you're rewarded
Yeah.
for that, and it works out. So I think that's what I'd sort of invite people to do is it's okay to feel uncomfortable as you're about to take a jump. It
Mhm.
happens.
Yeah.
All of us feel that way.
Mhm.
Just do it. You get the reward from the people afterwards, and they really appreciate it when you take those steps to integrate with them, speak the language, try to get something done. And there are all these humorous moments that you have too.
I'm sure it's a two-way street, isn't it? It really is. It's like the epitome of the more you put out there, the more you give, you get it back in spades, don't you?
Yes, you do. And I'm becoming really good at pool talk, as in swimming pool talk, with the pool guy who comes every week. He might come any moment. There was a funny moment where he was telling me the péage est bas, and I'm like, péage comme sur l'autoroute, like the toll plaza on the off the highway, and he's like, what? And he was, and I asked him to spell it, and he goes, pay hush, and I'm like, oh, pH. And he was talking about the pH level of the pool, and I
PH,
was
yeah.
hearing toll.
It's funny how your brain kind of goes to certain things, isn't it? When you're used to
Exactly.
using
You try to
them.
figure it out, and then we both laughed.
Yeah,
There are just funny moments like
yeah,
that. And you sort of get those mistakes are remembered, but they're endearing to the people who live here. And
absolutely.
then they laugh and it becomes like a village joke.
Yeah. In the
But
nicest possible way, yeah.
it's not at
It's a
anybody's
laughing with you, not
expense.
at you situation.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. That's a great thing. Um, So onto your local knowledge then. Do you have a favourite insider tip for a bar, a restaurant, I don't know, a lake that you would always go to, or you would always take a visitor to go, this is why we love it. This is the epitome of where we live.
That's a good question because a place that we go to often in Uzès that we take people who come and stay with us when they're here is Café de l'Hostal in the Place aux Herbes in Uzès, which it's right there.
It's over there
That's
somewhere.
where it's located. There. And what you don't see is in the evening, in warm weather, such as this, the whole square is filled with dining tables, and they're divided up, to all the different restaurants around there. But the staff are wonderful. The food is really good. There are a lot of other restaurants too. I'd recommend in Uzès. That's one that we go to a lot and spend a lot of time at. One thing we really stayed away from though is reading restaurant reviews online
Mm.
because so many times it's people who really don't understand the French restaurant process, the
Sure.
French dining etiquette, etc.
Mhm.
And we do really, really well just picking out a restaurant and going and ordering, and we're never disappointed.
Yeah.
They're all good. So don't read a review, don't leave a review, just
Don't
go and
read reviews. Go and make your own
start
mind.
enjoying. Yeah.
Wise words, wise words, Drayton. That's excellent. I'm going to put it on my list because I'm doing all these interviews. I'm definitely going to write down all of the wonderful restaurants. I'm basically doing my own little tour around at some point. And I'm going to go to all these
Cool.
amazing
Let us
places that
know.
people have recommended. I will, of course, of course. And if you were, on a practical sense, if you were to restart the process of moving to France now, I guess it's difficult because you can't unlearn everything that you've learned, but is there anything that you would do differently if you were to do it again?
Some good things that we did in preparing for the move, we really studied up on French etiquette
Mhm.
so that we would know how to better fit in. Because what I found is that although the French have a reputation for being rude, what I've discovered is if they're rude, it's because you were did something really rude or offensive first.
Sure,
And
sure.
learn that first, and it's basic stuff. Suddenly, everybody is so nice. And no matter where we go in France, it's like that. So it's not just down here. We can go to Paris and you get the same nice, helpful
Mhm.
people as long as you follow the basic etiquette.
Yeah.
Um, but things, wow, I think we did everything well. We had our process.
Mhm.
Uh, 25 miles from a TGV station, making sure we knew how to sort of start fitting in. But the moving things, we shipped 2 pallets
Okay.
over
Mhm.
of home stuff because we gave up our home in the US. And probably while it was halfway across the Atlantic, I said, if that ship sank, we'd get like an insurance payout, and I don't think I'd miss anything.
It's funny, isn't
So,
it? What we hold on to.
it's that. I'm really pleased with how we did the move. It was very easy. We just shipped a lot of stuff over that we're having to get rid of. So, that was
Maybe,
it.
maybe it's like a
We
cut and
got rid of
size thing. Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of stuff before we moved over and before it got
Yeah.
packed up and shipped, but
Yeah.
we could have gotten rid of a lot more.
Interesting, interesting. So you need to do a firmer audit next time. Well, there won't be a next time because this is forever home, right?
Right, yeah, but a firmer audit, that's it. It's like
Well,
packing a suit, take too much in their suitcase. Just get rid of it all.
yeah, I try and I either pack last minute, so I only take exactly what I need, what this is the top of my head, or a week in advance and then start taking things out 3 days beforehand. Don't need that. Don't need that. Don't need that. We need to do that. Panic packing. Brilliant. And do you have any advice that you would give anybody if they were doing it outside of the whole packing thing, who's actually specifically relocating from America to France? Any advice for that process?
From America to France. Hmm. For Americans, I think things are done very differently, but we found a lot of processes. We found the real estate process, buying a home, actually so much more enjoyable and pleasant than the
Really?
same in the US. And we were kind of amazed at how well everybody takes care of you. But I think for Americans, it would be slow in responding. Americans can be very much, and sometimes I have to hold myself back from this, is to, well, I need this, I need you to do that, and sort of almost giving orders.
Right.
And sit back, simply describe what you're doing, what challenge you're looking at, and let people offer. But the French people don't, if you were asking an American in America, I need to open a bank account, where should I do it? Oh, each person will have very specific, you have to go to this bank, you have
Right.
to do that, and
Mhm.
on and on. And the French don't do that. So just, they'll say you could go to this bank or you could go to that bank. It's up to you. They're not giving an opinion on it. But
Yeah,
another thing too, I'm just now remembering this, is that in the US, we encountered so much information from people living over here that were talking about how hard it was to get a bank account, how hard it was to get utilities, how hard it was to do all these things. And we realized that might not be correct because we showed up before closing on the home and in 45 minutes opened two bank accounts and got two credit cards. And we
right.
thought, okay. And then we went to get utilities, electric utilities. That took 5 minutes.
Mm.
We went and got our telephones and cable and internet service. Again, quite a breeze. And really, it's attitude and self-confidence is very important.
Sure.
And I have to say, it's not hard.
Yeah.
So kind of shuffle to the side all those comments where people are telling you it's so hard, it's so hard.
Mm.
Jump in,
Mhm.
do it, pay attention.
Mhm.
For us getting a bank account, we mentioned to our real estate agent here, we understand it's hard to get a bank account. And she goes, don't worry, when the time comes, we can provide you with assistance.
Mhm.
So as we got closer, she did, and she said, there's this person you can contact at this bank, or you can go to this person at that bank. It's your choice.
Mhm.
So we picked one
Yeah.
that did all the insurance services, contacted him in advance, set up a phone call so he could tell us what we needed to have and all the documents. And so we showed up with each with our dossiers
Mhm.
of all the documents they needed. So you walk in, we had our appointment, it's all set. And
Yeah.
and I said, so how much money do you need? And they go, well, you don't need to give us any money. You can just open the bank account. And that's a very foreign concept
And
in the
that's
US to open a bank account
it.
without money in it.
Yeah.
Uh, but that was fun. Um, and another advice to Americans I would give, oh, this is good. We to help our friends in the US when we were moving so they know where we lived,
Yeah.
we got business cards, calling cards made up with our name and address, where we are, how to contact us over here. I've got an example here. You can get
Brilliant
these made up, and I
ideas.
covered up the personal information, but
Yeah.
it's got my name. This is a hoopoe bird, come from a family of ornithologists, and the hoopos
Oh,
are in our
okay.
front yard,
That's
and
great.
they're like cartoon characters. They're great fun. And on the back of a card, a picture of the home from the front
Oh,
yard.
beautiful.
These came in handy in the US for giving to people, so they had, a way to, it's a nice way to share our
Nice.
information, contact
Yeah.
information. Boy, does that come in handy over here, though, when you arrive. If you're getting a carte de fidelité, your loyalty card at the grocery store, the hardware store, the winery. Oh, every winery has a loyalty program.
Mhm.
I still cannot, I still have trouble saying a phone number in French because they do it completely
Double
different from
digits.
in the
Yeah.
and when you give your phone number, it's like 3306. And then their eyes start to glaze over and they go, just give me your phone. Let me look at it on your
Yeah.
phone. But
I've
the
handed my
card,
mobile over before.
so
It's this.
you're constantly having to give your information with your name, address, telephone number, email address. And so when you have this little card, well, there in front of me,
Put
this
it
little
right.
card, oh, they love it. And then they
Yeah.
give it back to you, make sure you've
Yeah.
got it. And that saves you a lot of inconvenience of not getting your phone number right. Do you say zero or not?
Absolutely.
How do you say all the numbers? Um,
That's a great tip.
numbers,
That's a great tip. The numbers are tricky for a non-native
yeah.
speaker. The
Even your
numbers are
postal.
tricky.
I asked at a museum, they want to know what your postal code is, and I'm like, I know my code, but I'm not sure how you say it. How would you say that code?
Yeah.
And she told me, so it's a 5-digit code. My zip code in the US was 02138.
Mhm.
Here, my zip code, my postal code is 30,330.
Yes.
They say
Yes.
that, and we're
Yeah.
not. So you can sort of save you um, a little bit of time. People really appreciate that.
I think that's a great tip
Can
because
you
it
just,
makes them more comfortable because they don't feel like they're being mean to you, saying I don't understand what you're saying. And it's actually it breaks down one of those barriers, doesn't it?
we also use them a lot because you meet people all over the place. You meet Americans, Brits, French people whom you want to stay in contact with,
Yeah.
and you can give them your card, and it's a great way to give information
Brilliant.
out. So we've met a lot of people at the grocery store, the hardware store, the wine store, you name it, you run into people everywhere. And it's nice to have that there that you can give so that they can keep track of it and contact you and exchange information.
Brilliant. Well, Drayton, I think that's a really good spot for us to stop and some brilliant information. You're clearly very happy where you are, and that's a real
Oh, very.
that's a real joy to hear. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to hear more from French Connections HCB, like I said before, you can and subscribe to the channel, which would be great, or get in touch at frenchconnectionshcb.com.